When you play the Game of Thrones, you
Subscribe and like.
or you die. There is no middle ground.
Alright, hello YouTube, welcome back to the Grease Goblins YouTube channel. Today's video is going to be all about Patchface. We're going to go through his origins, go through all of his prophecies, and maybe a dabble into a little bit at the end where I think his character could be going and why are we getting all of these prophecies, and what does George have planned for him in the future. But before we get into the video, if you guys like to like, subscribe, and comment, please do. It helps the channel grow, reach your appeal. I like this content as well. We do a Song of Ice and Fire content on this channel all the time. We're doing a reread as well, so for anybody interested in that, we will be continuing on that as well. But let's get into the life of Patchface. So Patchface is a very weird character, and he has a very interesting origin. So he is linked back to Volantis. He was a jester slave who was actually said to be very clever, skilled, and very, and he had a very high wit. He was someone that I kind of would consider to be kind of like Tyrion in that regard, and he basically got noticed by Stefan Baratheon, who thought he was very good, and eventually he bought his freedom. Now, unfortunately, on this adventure, because again, Stefan Baratheon had been charged with his mission by Aerys Targaryen, or the Mad King, to find a suitable partner or companion for Rhaegar Targaryen, and they were unsuccessful. But they do end up bringing back this young boy, and unfortunately, on the way back to Storm's End, Stefan Baratheon's ship breaks, and presumably everyone dies, except for one, Patchface. 3 days after the wreck, Patchface washes up white and wrinkled, and his skin was cold to the touch. He was assumed dead until he coughed up water and sat up. Now, this is very interesting because, one, Patchface should be dead by all accounts. He had been in the sea, presumably unconscious, for 2 whole days, because then on the 3rd day he washes up to the bank, so it's not something like he has just been unconscious on the bank for a few days. No. He walks up. Now, what I think is interesting about him washing up and the way he is described, he's cold to the touch. Something that makes sense because he's been in the water for so long. But when you think about him coming back to life, cold to the touch is very similar to an Other or a White Walker. So could he be some sort of zombie from that? But then we also get this idea that he coughed up water and sat up, which is something that's very similar to the way the Iron Islands do their religion with the drowned god. And we see a lot of things through Patchface that would indicate maybe a drowned god being present. So I think there's a lot of different theories here, but is this that either one, Patchface is this drowned god prophet that was kept alive or brought back to life? Or also, in combination with that, do we see some sort of White Walker magic that brought Patchface up? Again, uncertain, but those are some of the things that could be possible. Now, again, we notice here that Patchface's mind is completely gone. He seems dumb-witted, and he seems to just be basically a simpleton at this point. And again, we have no idea how he survived for 2 days. There is this rumor that mermaids taught him how to breathe water for his seed. Very odd rumor that I doubt is the truth. Maybe the mermaids were involved somehow, but I don't think it was for his seed to breathe water. Because again, we also see that his wits leave. So did the mermaids take his wits? Interesting. Now, another thing I do want to point out, if we do assume that Patchface had not been taking in a lot of oxygen, and he had been having to hold his breath a lot, or while he was unconscious, he was in this constant state of having little oxygen, it would make sense as to why he would become a simpleton, because he would lose his brain cells. Eventually, the lack of oxygen would kind of deplete his brain. So again, that does make sense if we're looking at it from a realistic point of view. Now, the only reason that Patchface wasn't killed, because again, we see in this world of Song of Ice and Fire the idea that killing things that appear weak or are disabled or simpletons, stuff like that, usually people say we should kill them. For instance, Bran, a lot of different characters suggest that it would be kinder to just kill Bran. That's kind of the sentiment that was given to Patchface, but instead, Crescent spares Patchface instead. Now, this will kind of lead up to the main story, but he basically ends up being the court jester for Stannis, and he becomes a constant companion of Shireen on Dragonstone. Now, our first time seeing Patchface is through Crescent's eyes, and we have a very interesting line. Under the sea, birds have scales for feathers. Now, for me, I feel like this is kind of a pretty simple one to decipher, especially when it comes right after Dany's hatched her dragons. But we get this idea that it could be a couple things. So the first and most obvious one is that Dany hatched the dragons, and that Patchface is basically giving a prophecy that, again, the birds have scales for feathers, makes sense. Now, another thing that you could look to signify this is that Volantis is having a grayscale issue, maybe making the connection there, and that later this could be an issue in Westeros. That's also possible, but I don't know. I think this one mainly does refer to Dany and the dragons. Next message we see from Patchface is, it is always summer under the sea. The merwives wear anemones in their hair and weave gowns of silver seaweed. Now, what I decipher from this is basically the idea that, again, it's always summer under the sea. I think this refers to a lot of things. One, we've been in this long summer, and everybody's kind of not taking winter seriously. And then we look at this other idea that, again, everyone is not taking the other threat seriously. No one believes it. It's kind of faded into a myth, so it's always summer and never winter. Two, we have this idea that it refers more closely to Stannis' camp. We see the Knights of Summer and how they kind of are looked at as this army of summer knights that have not been tested. That could also refer to that as well. So the merwives wear anemones in their hair and wear gowns of silver seaweed. So again, we see a wife that wears something in their hair and weaves a gown of silver seaweed. So let's think about this. What do we see that could be impactful from this quote? Now, where I got this from, and where I think this makes the most sense, is Sansa at the purple wedding. We see a wife wearing something in the hair, wearing a silver gown, something that Sansa does wear. So again, referring back to the quote, the gown of silver seaweed, Sansa wears a silver gown at the wedding. Something being in the hair, Sansa wears a hairnet that contains the poison. And a merwife, Sansa is the wife of Tyrion at that point. So that is what I thought. Maybe you guys disagree. Some of these, I think, you could make up a couple different meanings, and I'd love to see any of your guys' interpretations of these. So let me know if you guys think differently than me in any of these, and let me know. So, moving on, we have the next quote. Under the sea it snows up, said the fool, and the rain is dry as bone. Now, the first part of it, I'm not sure what this means. It snows up. I thought the best thing I could think of here is maybe ash, because snow doesn't go up, but ash can go up, and ash kind of looks like snow, so maybe that makes sense. Maybe this is referring to Mel burning people. Maybe this is referring to Dany when, again, she has all this ash when she is bringing the dragons back. There's also plenty of other things that could foreshadow in the future, whether that's maybe Dany going, Mad Queen like we saw on the show. Could be a lot of things referring to that, and again, there's just a lot of things when it comes to ash. So again, this one is up to interpretation. It could be other things. Maybe it could be referring to maybe Jon Snow because of the reference to snow. Not sure what that can mean, but let me know what you guys think on the first part. Now, the second part, I want to bring up a moment with Catelyn and Robb, and this is right after the Lannister boys have been killed by Lord Karstark. There's an interesting quote that we hear. So, his words rang against Catelyn's ears, harsh and cruel as the pounding of a war drum. Her throat was dry as a bone. I did this. These two boys died, so my daughters might live. Now, again, if we look at the quote above, dry as bone, it is directly referenced in this Kaplan, this little Catlin monologue. So it could be referring to this moment, as well as you see on the idea of the rain. It was heavily raining during this point as well of Rob's campaign, so that could maybe make sense there. Moving on, we have, "Oh, clever, clever, clever fool," he began to sing. "The shadows come to dance, my lord. Dance, my lord, dance, my lord." He sang, hopping from one foot to the other, and back again. "The shadows come to stay, my lord. Stay, my lord, stay, my lord." He jerked his head with each word, the bells in his antlers sending up a clangor. Now, I think you could maybe make the idea that there's actually two meanings for this quote. So the first one would be obviously looking at Renly. "The shadows come to dance, my lord." Renly is described as a fool by Stannis. And again, the shadows come to stay, as in killing Renly. So you could look at it that way. Now, the other way you could look at this is as clever fool being Dany, because we see that the shadows come to dance, and Dany is tricked, right? She wanted Drogo basically be revived, but in this blood ritual, it actually ends up that her son dies, and also Drogo becomes a vegetable. So again, that could be what that's referring to. Let me know if you guys have any other interpretations of that. Next quote we have, and this is all happening, by the way, in A Clash of Kings. A lot of this is in the prologue. "Here we eat fish," the fool declared happily, waving a cod about like a scepter. "Under the sea, the fish eat us. I know, oh, oh, oh." In my opinion, this probably refers to cannibalism. We see this being a very common trend, especially in the latter books, whether we see this with Varamir or Bran, both end up eating human, and this is a big no-no. And if we look at the quote, "The fish eat us," so again, could be referring to some sort of cannibalism there. And I think for me, that's what that means. There could be some other reasonings. Some people could maybe look at the fish as in House Tully, but I'm not sure what that would refer to. So I'd be interested if you guys have a different interpretation there. Next quote, again, this one I feel like is a pretty basic one, but "Under the sea, no one wears hats," referring probably to the idea that none of the 5 kings will live to be king. Now, don't know if this one's true yet because Stannis is still alive. So again, this one hasn't really come to fruition yet, but it possibly could. And I think if you look at Stannis' situation where he's going to go, I personally have him dying, I think that one could make sense. And the last quote we have from A Clash of Kings, "Under the sea, smoke rises in bubbles, and flames burn green and black, and blue and black. Patchface sang somewhere, I know, oh, oh, oh." Now this, I think, is clear foreshadowing to the Battle of the Blackwater. Smoke rising in water and flames burning. I think that makes sense for that. Could be something else you guys think of there. I also want to say, the reason I think Patchface is so intriguing is that if you go off of how I have interpreted all of these have happened. They've come true, and Patchface would have no way of knowing these. So Patchface is giving these prophecies that come true, and this could be from a time later in the future, could be happening at the same time as Patchface is giving these prophecies, like Dany's dragons. Again, it's a very interesting idea. Now, that'll move us into A Storm of Swords. And again, we have another quote to start it out from Davos 2. "When the fool saw Davos, he jerked to a sudden halt, the bells on his antlered tin helmet going ting-a-ling, ting-a-ling. Hopping from one foot to the other, he sang, 'Fool's blood, king's blood, blood on the maiden's thigh, but chains for the guest and chains for the bridegroom.'" Again, foreshadowing to the Red Wedding. These are some of the quotes that I really love about it, because we're told we should know that we're going to get the Red Wedding, but here we go. So, Fool's blood being Jingle Bell's death. That was basically the fool of Walder Frey. We have Rob's death, which is the king's blood. Rosalind's blood at the bedding ceremony, fitting all 3 of those categories. And then chains for the guests and chains for the bridegroom, obviously meaning Walder Frey captures the guests or kills them, and also captures Edmure. "Under the sea, the old fish eat the young fish," the fool muttered at Davos. He bobbed his head, and his bells clanged and chimed and sang, I know, oh, oh, oh." Again, I really don't know what this one means. The best interpretation I came for this is that we see Wyman Manderley possibly killed the young Freys, so an old fish eating the young fish, because we also see Wyman Manderley then eat them later on, presumably, if Frey pie theory is to be believed. You could also point to other areas like Olenna killing Joffrey, like, again, old fish eating the young fish. Now, I don't know how you could, with these fish ones, you could maybe look at House Tully, but I don't know what this one would mean. I don't know what old fish would be eating the young fish and how that kind of goes about. Maybe this one refers to the blackfish and how he could possibly in the future do something there. I'm not sure. I'd be interested to see what you guys think about that. And that will move us on to A Dance with Dragons and kind of the last part of our quotes. And I will say, the farther we go with these Patchface quotes, the harder it is to interpret some of them, because, again, some of the things foreshadowed here obviously haven't happened yet, so some of them we have to guess at and look to the future on. So, this one comes from John 9, A Dance with Dragons. In the dark, the dead are dancing. Patchface shuffled his feet in a grotesque dance step. I know, oh. Bran specifically notes when reaching Bloodraven's cave that the whites being attacked by cold hands, are dancing in the snow. So this could be, again, the dead dancing, and it would be during the dark as well. So again, I think that maybe is what it could be referring to. You could also look at other things. Again, the dead are dancing could possibly go back to Dany with the blood ritual thing going on with Drogo and her child. So again, that could be happening as well. Now, again, I want to bring in another quote to kind of show how mysterious Patchface is, especially to someone like Mel. So this is, again, A Dance with Dragons, John 10. Melisandre's face darkened. That creature is dangerous. Many a time I have glimpsed him in my flame. Sometimes there are skulls about him, and his lips are red with blood. So again, Mel even is made uneasy by this creature, and this is Mel. Mel is not made uneasy by anyone. But Patchface she is, and she keeps seeing Patchface in her visions. Now, could this be a warning from the Red God that, hey, Patchface is kind of an enemy, we should take him out? Is it a warning of the dangers he could possess? And I think if you look at how I look at this, I think Patchface is going to cause possibly a grayscale plague. You think about how he would be dangerous, how there are people going to die because of Patchface. I think him and Shireen are tied together, and if Shireen is burned, I think Patchface, maybe being this prophetic, magical type character, could use that blood sacrifice and it can not only bring back Jon, but also could create a grayscale plague, and that would cause his lips to be full of red because he causes a lot of people's deaths. Could happen, maybe not. That one we just kind of have to guess on. Under the sea, the crows are white as snow. I know, oh. I'm gonna be honest, I have no idea what this means. Like, I genuinely don't know. So I would love to see what your guys' interpretations of that one are, because I couldn't really think of anything. The crows are white as snow. Maybe this one could be about Bloodraven, but I don't know. I don't know if that one fits. So let me know what you guys think on that. So we have another quote from Patchface that could be foreshadowing to Shireen's death, and probably is. So here we go. This is from A Dance with Dragons, John 11. The bells on his hat rang. Away, away, the fool sang. Come with me, beneath the sea, away, away. He took the little princess by one hand and drew her from the room, skipping. So again, this one I just feel like is so obvious to Shireen's foreshadowing death. We have this idea that, again, the sea and bringing down Shireen to this place of death, where where Patchface has been presumably dead and come back. So again, I think that's probably what that will mean. And this will get us into our last couple quotes, but we will march into the sea and out again. Under the waves we will ride seahorses, and mermaids will blow seashells to announce our coming. Now, again, this quote could be referring to multiple things. Could be referring to the Mannerleys and Velaryons, or it could be looking at the Dothraki, who, again, who call ships wooden horses. So you can maybe make the idea that they are seahorses. Maybe you could do that. And then something at the end of this with blowing seashells could be referring to something like the Horn of Winter or Dragon Binder. Not sure on this quote. Again, these other ones are pretty tough to think about. Under the sea, men marry fishes. This could possibly mean that people are marrying people below their social class or something that's out of the ordinary. Like the idea of men marrying fishes seems absurd. So maybe you could parallel that to the ideas of unbalanced relationships. So for instance, maybe you could look at Dany and Hisdar. Dany is this Targaryen. She's descended from this very noble blood. She has these dragons. She's very noble. And Hisdar doesn't really seem to be on the same level there. And it's kind of just a match to help Marine. So you could see something like that maybe with Dany and Hisdar. Maybe you could bring up this idea of like Rosalind and Edmure. Just based on the fact that the phrase betrayed Edmure's family, so it's a very odd marriage. But that could be foreshadowing to other things like Alice Karstark and marrying a wildling. Again, out of left field marriage. So that is kind of what I thought. So that was all of the major prophecies and quotes I could find from Patchface for this video. If I forgot any, I am sorry. These are the ones I wanted to cover that I really looked at. So thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys all in the next video. Let me know if there's another character you want me to do a kind of character analysis on. So also sorry for my hair kind of being a mess and stuff in this video. I recorded this right after showering and it's like midnight. So yeah, I hope that, yeah, I'm just going to put that there. So thank you guys all for watching, and I'll see you guys all in the next video. Bye guys.